Bam! Sliding through once again, man. It's your boy Tony right here on Stories Written by a Current Prisoner. It's my boy Ravi right here, man. Doing this thing. Please hit that like for him. You know? Let's go ahead and waste no time whatsoever, man. Let's go ahead and dive right into this thing.
Alright. So it was December of 2018 or November right here at SADF, New Corcoran on DR. I was walking laps. It was me, my boys, Sharky, my other boy, Silent, a couple of the other homies that I know from that yard, from being on that yard. Uh, we were walking laps and we ended up running into this dude named Bugsy from Watsonville. And this dude Bugsy was over here talking about my boy Sharky and how like he's about to burn him and he's just gonna just burn him and pretty much not give him his money that he owes him and whatnot. So I got wind of it, and once I heard what he was saying, I ended up going and telling the homie, like, hey, check this out. This dude right here is about to burn you. Like, so I don't know if what you got going on with him or anything like that, but just be aware. And my boy was like, well, it's good. Like, I'll just end up getting on him. And I offered to ask him to go with him because, like that's only the right thing to do because I heard it. Because first he was just trying to go and approach him and ask him if he was pretty much talking crap about him. And I just told him like pretty much like, look, if we go and ask him if he's talking crap, it's pretty much gonna be like, well, who said it? And I'm gonna have to say I said it, and it's just gonna have to end up going up no matter what. Because if he calls me a liar, then I'm gonna have to take off on him. That's just the way it is. So I just told my boy like pretty much tomorrow, just let's go and jump him up. And that's it. And my boy ended up telling me he had school and whatnot, so we had to wait for him to get out of school. But the morning time came around and he came into the circle of all of us, and he pretty much was already talking crap, talking down on us. Well, not me, but the the homies I was around and a couple of the other dudes that were standing in the circle. And for me, I didn't like that, so I just ended up socking that dude in the side of his head, right by his ear, which almost dropped him, and he fell sideways. And then out of nowhere, my boy Silent jumped in, and another homie jumped in, and they just ended up. After that, we just ended up rushing him, and he started backpedaling. And with the two homies I was with, they were young, so they didn't really know what time it is. So he tried to act like he was clutching on something, and for a scare tactic, but I told my little partners, like, hey, this dude didn't have nothing, like, just rushing him. We ended up rushing him, and he fell on top of my little homie, and I'll start catching him from the back. But what I didn't realize is that he had some homies that were going to jump from him. So a couple other non-affiliated Northerners ran from across the yard to help him. And the one ex-outsider that was talking with me ended up fighting with one of those other dudes, and then another dude came from behind and hit me in the back of the head, but he only hit me once because the cops were already there on the scene at that time, Like, the alarm has been going off for about the last the last 3 minutes, so they were already there on the scene, and we all ended up getting super soaked with pepper spray from head to toe, and we all started laughing and stuff at each other, because we knew how dumb it is. Like, this thing went up for no reason, and, like, it could have been avoided, or, there's other ways to go around things without using violence, because violence is supposed to be the last thing that we were supposed to use in prison, but, a lot of the time, people respect violence, as fucked up as best as it sounds, people respect violence. So, like, once they know that we have to result in violence, then people would start following me around because of that. And anyways, we're all just laughing because there was a couple of us that had been around and we're all sprayed up. And, we could barely breathe to see it because of pepper spray. I ended up going to the cages, and this was my third incident in the last month or two. I had back fights, I had a jumping in the day room, I had a one-on-one fight, so I thought for sure I was gonna go to the hole because this was like a 7-man melee, and we're all in the cages, we're laughing and joking. I'm telling him, he's like, hey, I'm going to the hole, So everybody keep their head up, and one of the homies thought I was gonna just go just because I didn't want no problems, but I was like, hey, if I can come back to the yard, I will. I'm gonna sign off and do whatever I have to, and yeah. So we all signed off, and we all came back. We waited for a day or two because there's no program
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
because it was a modified program, and after the little modified program, we all came out. Everyone's kind of nervous still because this thing just went up, and even though people are saying that it's a dead issue or things are squashed, a lot of the times it's not. It's not until you really be there face to face and talk about the issue that was at that moment. So we all went out, and I only had a couple people with me, but I just had a big group on the other side of the yard, and I knew all those guys were together. But regardless to how many they were, I still ended up going up to a gang of them by myself. There was a couple homies behind me, but they all had plosives and they just stood behind me. And I went up to one of the people I thought was gonna be the voice of them, and we all were standoffish at first and whatnot because of what just happened. And I was like, hey, where is this individual? And he was like, no, as a matter of fact, I really told him, I said, if this individual is still here, then I guess call him back, call him to the middle of the field, and we'll just take care of it, me and him on a one-on-one. And they're like, well, he's not here. That individual ended up, I think, didn't sign off because he's the only one that didn't come back to the yard. But people knew this dude was trash, he didn't want to be there, so he used that as an excuse to just escape, that's how I felt. And my boy Sharky, he got out of school and he was upset, because he knew that we should have waited for him because this was his beef, and we were talking to him and we let him know hey, what we were supposed to do, hey, this fool's talking crap and already started an issue early in the morning. Just after we ended up talking to all the ex-Northerners that were on the yard, we ended up coming to a agreement that it was all over some bullshit, especially that the dude that was starting all the problems wasn't there no more. And I got an understanding from what they saw when we ended up getting into it, because all they seen is a couple guys jumping another one of their friends, which is a no-no, especially in prison, because even though a lot of people are trying to do good and trying to go home, they still have morals about how they look at certain stuff that goes on in here. And I know, if one of my friends were getting jumped, I would jump in because it happened multiple times. But these dudes that I was getting involved with were still hitters from the mainland that still played with knives and still were gangbang, So that's why I catch myself getting into a lot of bullshit with the people around here. But really have to try to get into self-help groups and try to keep focused to moving on forward. And it really just depends on your support team and who's really there for you, because a lot of guys in here that don't have nobody or have people to care about them, they ended up doing the same thing. It's just a cycle that keeps going on and on and on. But you either have to break it, or you either have to just break the cycle and find something new to do. Especially in the environments of these level 4s and 180s, people respect violence. That's why a lot of times people end up using violence, is because that's the only thing that's respected inside prison. And in society, where I grew up in, it was bad. We had to just end up shooting people, stabbing people, in order just to survive. But now that I got my head right and started really going back to college and doing these groups and self-help groups, I see the bigger picture about how I should
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
worry about my family and the people that got left for me, because these same dudes that I'm jumping for, these same dudes that I'm getting this bullshit with, or getting this stuff with, are like the same ones that want to keep me stuck here, just because a lot of these fools are miserable and they really don't know what they want in life, or they just don't care really about their lives. I remember just like the other day, just because me and my cellie don't really mess with too many people, a lot of people looked at us like we're the weirdos or we're too good for people in here. But these same dudes are the ones in here chasing drugs and worry about a lot of other stuff that's going on.